In early 1942, Australia faced one of the greatest threats in its history. Japanese forces were advancing rapidly across Southeast Asia and the Pacific. One Allied stronghold after another collapsed under relentless pressure. Pearl Harbor had been devastated. The British battleships, HMS Prince of Wales and HMS Repulse, were sunk. Singapore, once considered impregnable, fell in February 1942. By the middle of the year, the possibility of a Japanese invasion of Australia no longer seemed impossible. The country urgently needed modern fighters. But there was one major problem. Australia barely had an aviation industry capable of building them. For years, Britain had supplied Australia with outdated military equipment, while paying little attention to the continent's defense needs. At the outbreak of war, the Royal Australian Air Force possessed only 2 fighter squadrons, both flying Brewster Buffalo aircraft in the disastrous Malayan campaign. Realizing they could not rely entirely on Britain or the United States for protection, Australian leaders made a bold decision. They would build their own fighter aircraft using domestic industry. Fortunately, the foundation already existed. Back in 1936, the Commonwealth Aircraft Corporation had been established in Melbourne. Its first aircraft, the WWII trainer, was based on the American NA-33 design. Although intended as a trainer, the WWII was already being forced into combat roles due to the desperate shortage of aircraft. Australian engineers now faced a challenge unlike anything they had attempted before: design a modern fighter fast. The solution was practical rather than revolutionary. Instead of creating an entirely new aircraft, engineers decided to adapt the proven WWII platform into a compact combat fighter. The aircraft would use locally available components wherever possible. Its power plant became the Pratt & Whitney R1830 radial engine, already being produced in Australia for Beaufort bombers. The new fighter received a fitting name: the Boomerang. Engineers shortened and reinforced the wings, strengthened the fuselage, redesigned the cockpit for a single pilot, and added armor protection along with a bullet-resistant windscreen. The fighter retained the rugged steel tube structure of the WWII, but replaced fabric skinning with metal and plywood. Despite its unusual barrel-shaped appearance and short fuselage, the aircraft was tough, compact, and highly maneuverable. Most importantly, it could be built quickly. Only 16 months after development began, test pilot Ken Freeman took the Boomerang into the Air Force maiden flight. The gamble had worked.
The Boomerang was armed with 4 Browning machine guns and 2 20mm Hispano cannons. Obtaining those cannons nearly became a disaster. Australia did not manufacture them, and overseas supplies were unavailable. Then came an extraordinary stroke of luck. Engineers discovered a retired sergeant had brought a Hispano cannon home from North Africa as a personal souvenir. The weapon had once been mounted on a truck for anti-aircraft defense. Using that single example, Australian engineers reverse-engineered the cannon and began local production. Performance tests revealed surprising strengths. The Boomerang could climb nearly 2,900 feet per minute, outperforming early Spitfires and American P-40 fighters in climb rate. It also proved exceptionally maneuverable. During mock dogfights, Australian pilots consistently outturned P-40s and held their own against P-39 Airacobras. But the aircraft was not perfect. Its short fuselage and narrow landing gear made landings difficult. Ground loops, damaged wings, and collapsed landing gear became common problems during training. Even so, pilots quickly learned to respect the aircraft. The Boomerang entered combat service in 1943. Initially assigned to defensive patrols around Australia and New Guinea, the aircraft soon found its true purpose: close air support. In the jungles of New Guinea and Bougainville, the Boomerang became invaluable. Flying at extremely low altitude, pilots identified hidden Japanese positions and marked them with smoke for incoming bombers and artillery. When necessary, they attacked directly, using cannon and machine gun fire. The aircraft's outstanding maneuverability made it ideal for dangerous low-level operations over dense jungle terrain. Australian infantry came to rely heavily on the Boomerang. Pilots from No. 4 Squadron, nicknamed the Boomer Boys, earned enormous respect from ground troops for their aggressive support missions. The aircraft also worked alongside American and New Zealand forces. But cooperation sometimes created confusion. The Boomerang silhouette resembled certain Japanese fighters, leading to multiple friendly fire incidents. In one case, American anti-aircraft gunners mistakenly shot down an Australian aircraft. Another Boomerang was attacked by a US P-38 Lightning during a misidentified dogfight. Despite these incidents, the aircraft continued to prove itself in combat. As production continued, improved versions appeared. The CA-13 introduced structural refinements, stronger materials, and mechanical upgrades. Engineers also experimented with a turbocharged high-altitude version called the CA-14. This aircraft delivered a significant increase in speed and performance, but by 1944, the Allies already possessed enough advanced fighters. The project never entered mass production. The final operational version became the CA-19. It featured improved landing gear, cleaner aerodynamics, and reconnaissance cameras that allowed pilots to conduct combat and photo recon missions simultaneously. In total, Australia produced hundreds of Boomerangs during the war. Although it never became a world-famous dogfighter like the Spitfire or Mustang, the aircraft succeeded in the role Australia needed most. It defended remote bases, supported Allied troops, and operated effectively in some of the harshest combat environments of the Pacific War. After the war, the tropical climate and years of hard service quickly destroyed most surviving aircraft. By the end of the 20th century, only one original Boomerang remained. Ironically, this aircraft had briefly become a movie star after the war, appearing in the film Smithy as a stand-in for Charles Kingsford Smith's Lockheed Altair. Eventually abandoned and heavily damaged by weather and vandalism, the aircraft was finally rescued. A Royal Australian Air Force C-130 Hercules transported the remains to Williamtown, where a lengthy restoration project brought the fighter back to life. Today, that single surviving Boomerang stands as a symbol of Australian determination during one of the darkest periods of World War II. Built under pressure, with limited resources and almost no margin for failure, the Boomerang proved that Australia could create a capable combat aircraft when its survival depended on it.